Hello, Brian Haddix from the Vintage Type. Guys, this is the Oliver 3 carriage and I'm going to take it apart. What I did is I started about a week ago oiling these screws. There's two here, and two here. These hold the rod to the platen, and of course this is the platen knob. I also went on to this side and oiled this a little bit. That makes it a little easier to take apart when the time. This is the release for the feed rollers. So go ahead and hit that, and then this comes apart. You just pull forward and up, and then the feed rollers come out, and you see this spring right here. You have to pull there's a little notch. You have to get that apart, and right here, you have to pull that apart, and like I said, I worked for a while to get these loose, so they should come apart pretty easy. That one was still holding on just a little. There we go. There's the last one. It's been in there a while, might take a little bit to get it out. But it is coming. I just can't get any leverage on it. I think it's all this little bit of rusty right here. I think that's what's keeping it held in. So it's starting to get loose. I'm not sure where the holdup is. Sometimes if there's rust on that little shaft, it is a booger to get out of there. Well, I might turn this off for a little bit and then bring it back when I can get this loose, and I'll let you guys know what the problem is. Okay, I did have some success, but as you can see right here, it is really rusty. I'm not sure if you can see that. So what I'm going to attempt to do is take these screws out, which will take this metal piece off, and then I'll try to get this up and out of the way enough to slide the platen off this way, and then I'll be able to, so the wood core and the rubber will come off, and then this metal piece and then the shaft will stay on there if everything goes well. And then I'll be able to get to that shaft and probably clean it a little bit, because you can see, I don't know if you can see that, what's happening is as I'm pulling this shaft, it's pulling this end piece out of the wood. It's pulling the screws right out of the wood, and I don't want to keep doing that. I think it'll be detrimental if I keep going that way, so I'll work on taking these screws out of here. Okay. And I should be able to get this out here. It's been a while since I've had anything this rusty. But at the very least, by taking these screws out, I won't be putting any more pressure on that wood core. I'll put this in that little tin so I don't lose those, because as I'm working, eventually something falls off the table, and I spend 20 minutes looking for it. All right. There. Okay, let's see what that does. Okay, so that's free. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. If I can get it up just enough. Let's take this off. Wasn't going to do that right now, but we'll see if this comes loose and give me a little more leverage. Yep, it's loose. Might get lucky here. There we go. That was nice and easy. And put this little screw back on. And I'll set that aside. That's what that core looks like. All right, that one's still okay. I don't know if I can clean up that that platen. I might have another one I can use. Okay, this is what we had. You can see all the pitting. Well, hopefully you can. All of the pitting right here, all the way down, and it was this spot right here that was absolutely the worst. I tried to pull it through right here, and I got about there, and I couldn't get any farther, so I had to tap it all back through. I had luckily I had a little brass hammer that I could just real gently tap it back, and this was, you know, right here holding on. And so I was able to get in here with some 600 grit sandpaper and just go after that rust and get it all off of there. So it's pretty smooth now, and I was able to, of course, slide this off and take this out that direction. So you set that in the little bucket or the tin where you've got all your stuff. I've got a little collection of stuff now. Okay, so that spring is loose, because if you try to start taking this screw out, that spring is going to put pressure on that screw and turn it, kind of cock it sideways. The early 5s, and I think the 3s as well, have a little ball bearing in here. Yeah, right there. Just be careful you don't lose that. A lot of times it's frozen, and you might think it's stationary, but it's got a little spring behind it, and that little plug will pop out, and you can end up losing that pretty easy. So make sure you put that in your little tin and don't lose it. Yeah, so, well, this one doesn't. It's old enough, it doesn't have a washer. A lot of times there'll be a little wave washer right there, but this doesn't have anything. And also when you're taking these apart, make sure that roller works. Because you can see there's a shiny spot. This one didn't roll forever and ever and ever. And then I was able to work it loose, and now it turns again. So, all right. See if I can get a little oil on that and get it loose. This might need some time to soak, so I might have to come back to it. I don't want to force anything. The worst thing in the world is to break a screw. You know, there's ways around it, but sure is nice to prevent it. And it's going to wait a little while until it gets loose. And underneath, right here is where the other end of that screw. So sometimes you can get a little oil on that too, and just let it migrate in. Okay, so I'll take this off now. There we go. And when you're putting the rod back through for your plat, I would suggest putting this on last, because sometimes if you put it on first, it can sit kind of like this, and you try to put that rod through for your plat, and then you end up bending this thing and have to straighten it out. So I usually put that on last. There's a little spring right here. There's a big coil under here, and then the hooks right on that screw. So if you can take that off and get it loose. Okay, it's going to need some oil as well. Might have to come back to that. Okay. See if I can get this one out. With these things, you just can't be in a hurry. Just have to let them take their own time to work loose. I'll just pull that spring off later. But by pulling this apart, I can at least get to, there we go. So I'll leave that spring connected because it's hooked underneath here. So I'll just leave it loose like this. But this way, by getting that large screw out, I can hopefully get these screws loose and get these rollers out of here, these little trucks. Sometimes they're really difficult. Oh, I got lucky. And they don't want to come out, but these are coming out just fine. And I like to take these apart because you're supposed to oil right here, and there's a little oil hole. I don't know if you can see it right there, but they don't ever get oiled and they fill up with junk. And when I pull this out, you'll be able to see how gummy they usually are. So that should be out by now. There we go. Like the shaft for the platen, I'll bet there's junk in there that's not letting it come loose all the way. Let's try the other one. We'll come back to that. Okay, that's how they should come out. There we go. Give this a little more liquid encouragement and see what happens. It is definitely not, it's not threaded in anymore. It's just to convince it to come out might be a little difficult. And it is loose. There is no restriction there. It's just hard to get purchase on it. There we go. And it looks just like a little ring of rust right there that was pretty solid. And so that's taken care of. This is one of the roughest ones I've had. Okay, you can see all the debris in there. That's why it's so good to clean them out. Makes them run like they're new. Okay. So that'll come off. I might have a, ooh, that was not good. A replacement piece for that. There we go. We'll pretend you guys didn't see that. That was me not paying attention and not being as careful as I could be, and I scratched that. So sometimes that happens. I like to prevent that if possible, but at least it was on the back side. I should have been more careful. That's my fault. Okay. It's just going in my collection anyway, so I'm going to be the only one that really cares too much about that, but still it bothers me that I did that. Never want to make things worse. Okay, I'll put that back together. Like I say, I might have another one of these. In the summertime, I have a little nickeling kit that I'll take some parts off of a parts machine and put a new coat of nickel on them, and that way I can just pull them out of the bin and put them on. It makes it nice and easy. So, all right, I'll try this screw again. Hopefully it's had time to come loose. Move this out of the way enough so I can get to it, and we'll see what happens here. And nothing. Oh, there we go. Finally got it. Okay. And that is just hooked on there. Right there, you could probably see that. That little hook goes over there, and when that screw tightens up, it locks that spring into place. You can tell it's awful dirty right there, so that'll all get cleaned up. That's why it looks so nice when they're clean, because they've had all that time to get dirty. This I don't usually take off. I can clean around that. That's not a problem. But that guy might be bad enough to take apart. But I'll see about that one. It's hard to get that screw out of there, so that's why I don't usually take it off. So there it is. Like I say, this one will come off eventually, but it's all stripped down. I'll clean it up and come back and we'll do the reassembly process. Okay, these are the parts I'm going to replace. This bar is, of course, the original. This is off of a number 9 that I renickeled. It should work just fine. I don't think anybody will care. These are the paper fingers. I didn't have a replacement for those, so those will go back on, and I'll redo those here this spring or summer. And then that's redone, and then here's this piece. I did have some of these little fellas that I redid. They're the same as on a number 5, so those are redone. And then I was able to find one that I did of this. I'll redo the back, and then this little detent piece I'll swap out because they look to be the same. So make it look a little nicer. When you're cleaning out in here and making it all nice and getting the dirt out, there's a little spring that controls the carriage release, makes this go in and out. And if that spring comes off of here, sometimes it'll tuck back behind and you won't see it. And if you're not familiar with these, you won't even notice it's missing until you go to put it all back together and your carriage release doesn't return. And that's the problem. So look out for that. Little plug and spring that I was telling you about. I was putting this lever on the side of the carriage, and everything fell. So I had to find those little pieces. So they're pretty small, but I was successful. Put on. I didn't want to record that because there was round 2 of the spring hitting the carpet, and I didn't want to risk never being able to find it again. All right, it's coming together. Alright, here's the replacement piece I had re-nickeled earlier. And the problem with re-nickeling is sometimes when you go to put this thing on, I'm putting it on backwards so you can at least see the fit. When I first put this on, it didn't go on real well because the nickel had increased the inside diameter, so it was almost an interference fit. So just beware of when you re-nickel something, if you decide to do this stuff, that it could change some dimensions. So now it seems to work pretty well, seems to be pretty loose, but that did take a little bit of work with, I think this is 1000 grit sandpaper. So it's better now. And I will put a little bit of oil on everything. I'll turn that around here. Line this up, put that in the hole. Okay. Put the spring back on. And this piece. And you'll want this to be really loose, especially loose, so it doesn't catch or drag or anything. And that's how it should be. Parts machine. So we'll put this one in. And here's the old one. Here. So this washer needs to tuck inside of that hole. If it's out like this, it won't work right. So as you put the platen all the way in, or this bar all the way in, and press it up against here, this has to be flat, and if it's not, this won't it won't sit tight enough up against here and you'll have problems. So let's get started. It's all shiny and cleaned up. That little shaft is. Got most of the rust off, so we're doing better here. And then you'll want to put, there we go, I think you can see that. Set it on number 3. And then lock this. It's hard. It's hard to get the camera at the right angle. And then lock this in place, and then go ahead and start putting it all in there. Okay, getting there. Okay, it's going. Okay. I pulled this out and then I caused a problem here, so got to make sure this is all the way in. And see how it's flat? That's a big problem if it's not. Okay. Now let's line these up. Okay. That's lined up. And as you can see, there's no space here. It's real tight. So that's exactly how it should be. Now all I have to do is put the little screws in there and we're set. my little screwdriver doesn't hold on to the screws well enough, and they drop and I kind of lose them. So I've got to use this bigger one. It's kind of clumsy, but it has a better grip on the slot. So that's what I'm using right now. All my medium screwdrivers I need to work on them. The tip is a little bit boogered up on a couple. All right, well, almost. All right. These knobs cleaned up pretty well. I was surprised. I mean, they're still missing some nickel, and they're not perfect, but they're a lot better than they were. Oh, almost forgot a piece here. The very piece I said I wait till to put on last. Okay. And you want just a little bit of gap in here. You don't want to press it tight. Let's see. Okay, there. Got to get that just right. Okay. Trying to look around the camera here, so sometimes it's a little hard to see. Okay, we're doing good. So one of the things I want to adjust is the variable release on this, and actually, or the variable on it, and it seems to be pretty good. So it doesn't turn when you're not applying pressure to this and turning with the right hand knob, but the platen turns without the wheel turning as you apply pressure, and that's because of the spring here. Looks like it's adjusted about right. So if it's too tight or too loose, then you just tighten those two screws, and that applies more pressure to that spring, and it makes it work. And this is the old feed rollers and scale and this piece in front here. I couldn't get the screws apart. The screws are kind of locked in place, so I dug around and I found, I put this together. These are the pieces I pulled out of the parts that I've re-nickeled, and I found some feed rollers that I had done by J.J. Short. So these are going in, and I'll see about taking this apart and doing a re-nickel job on these in the summertime once I can get these screws out of here. But they're rusted tight right now, so I wanted to keep going on this. So I'm going to slide this into place. So we'll want to, it looks like it's, no, okay. So here's the lever to move the feed rollers forward, and that takes pressure, a little bit of pressure off these springs. And what you want to do is pull those springs just a little bit forward, enough to get this started. So the spring is in front of the first feed roller, and then you want to catch it right there and go to the other side, and it'll fight you a little bit. So again, I'm moving around the camera to try and see. I want you guys to get a good view here. Trying not to break the spring. Okay, so it's on both sides. This is how it should be on both sides. I'll try to get There we go. That's looking better. And there's that notch. You want to get that pin in that little notch on both sides. Hopefully you can see that. It's not quite there on this side, but okay, so unless you get the spring on the other side of this, it won't work. So let's go back up. Starting over. It takes a while. Sometimes it's harder than others. Gotta be patient. Okay, that one started. Let's go on to this one. It's no easier for me than anybody else, that's for sure. I gotta fight with it too. Okay, so now we're on each side, so now if we just push down, it should start locking into place. And okay, the pin is in place. So that pin is where it should be. That's the one we want in place. And let's see, that pin is in place too, so we're good. Because that way, these springs apply pressure to the feed rollers and they'll take paper. If you don't have it in just right, it won't take paper. So there it is. And here's the paper fingers. I ended up polishing these screws. They turned out pretty good, and I just lost a screw. So I'll find that a little later, wherever it went. And let's see. Okay, well, there it is, just about done here. Doesn't look too bad. I'll accept that little scratch right there. I'll probably touch that up. Oops. All right, so it's looking better. I put this knob on off camera. Everything's all in place. I was going to take this bar out, but it turns out once I got the screw out, I forgot about this. This little knob actually unscrews from this lever, and the lever comes out this way, and of course the knob just comes off. But I couldn't get this this little knob off without marring it up, so I decided just to clean it in place. And that's it. This little guy was able to get freed up. It turns really well now, this back roller. And these little trucks, these little rollers work great, very smooth. The action on everything is all freed up. It's nice. It should work great. This video has gone really long. I wanted to show some detail that I haven't shown in other videos. So it took a while. But hopefully if you're putting one of these together, these are details that you need and they will be helpful. So what I'm going to do is there'll be a part 3 where I'll do some fine tuning, not so much on the carriage, but if there is anything, I'll show that, but more on the machine back there, because I took everything apart. Some of the type levers are probably a little out of adjustment. I'll put a ribbon on, I'll show that. And just little adjustments. I'll put all those on a video if anybody's interested. It'll be coming up pretty soon. And that'll be about it. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. And like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.